Greetings and good day. This is Christopher Fries here at Fries Forge. It's time to get to the grind. I've had some time to hold this. It's going to be an amazing weapon once it's done, but it's not there yet. So we've got a lot of work on the grinder to do to be able to get this to exactly where I want it. Got it pretty close. I'm very happy with it so far. There are some few things that I need to correct. So firstly, there is a bit of daylight here, as you can tell. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. I certainly can. So we're gonna get this hot and we're gonna beat the daylights out of it, and then it's on to the grinder.
You may recall on the previous video in which I forged this blade, I made mention of the mallet that I would like to have as opposed to the 2x4 that I was using before. Well, I went out to pick myself up a mallet. You think I could find one? I went to 3 or 4 different stores and none of them had one. This was the closest that I could come to an actual mallet, and I'm glad it was cheap because it's not going to work. Just that little bit of straightening there made great big marks on the mallet, and I guess I'm going to have to bite the proverbial bullet and pick one up online. The problem with the buying one online is everybody that I have found so far wants one that costs far more than I want to pay after shipping and handling and everything like that. What can you do, I suppose? Maybe I'll make one. I don't know. But if you have a source for one that is, not going to cost me 60 bucks, please do let me know, because I need one. All that straightening did, a little bit of unstraightening in the other directions. So I'm just correcting that here. It's very small corrections. It was 99% straight, but 99% straight is still not straight, and I want this to be perfect. So some minor tinkering, tap, 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 stare at it, tap, tap, tap. This probably doesn't make for that entertaining of a video. I'm sorry for that. Some people like to see this, some people don't. Let me know what you think.
Much better.
There are a lot of really neat things that you do in blacksmithing. One of the really, really cool ones, or really, really neat ones, is the ability to change the cross-section of the metal. This is something that everybody else lacks the ability to do. Go take a piece of steel to a fabricator and tell him you want to turn this piece of steel into a flat disc. He's gonna laugh at you. Take it to a blacksmith and he goes, okay, give me 5 minutes. So that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm taking a piece of wrought iron that I got from Dave at Cod Forge. Dave is a really cool guy, and he is an even better blacksmith. He does some amazing work. If you don't know of him, definitely go and check him out, because it's worth the time to go to his Facebook page. I'll leave a link to that in the description of this video. Hi, Dave. I found when I was making this piece, I had a continual need for different tongs. Oh, so many different tongs, and none of them really worked perfectly well. If anybody has a suggestion for tongs that will make this process that I'm going through right now easier, maybe a one-size-fits-all sort of thing, that would be great. Let me know in the comments. The grind is real. Just like in the forging, the grinding as I'm doing it here is a process, and there are multiple steps. Right now, I'm just doing what I can to take all of the scale off. I'm using an old dull belt because I don't want the hard scale to wear down the brand new belts that I just picked up in order to be able to do this knife. Now I've got most of the scale all off, it's time to really start trying to make this bevel and everything nice and clean, nice and straight. I'm finding a little bit of wobble, unfortunately, while I'm trying to do this. Not up and down, but side to side, like back and forth. You see I'm just looking at it there. I'm not really too pleased with it. I come up with an idea for that later. Before I go too far with grinding down the side of the blade, I need to address the tip. When I forged it, I forged the tip and it was just a little bit off. There's a little bit too much material at the tip. And it's not true to the Seax that I'm trying to recreate. So I've marked out where it should be and I'm going ahead with that. Trying to make the transition from the spine down to the tip as smooth as possible. Trying to make sure that there are no bumps or jumps or anything like that. And then a little bit of grind on the spine just to kind of flush everything up and make sure everything is perfectly straight. Perfectly straight, perfectly flat. That's what I'm going for. I'm going for perfect with this blade. The tang here, even with all the pounding of the highs and of the lows that I did with the flatter, still left a little bit here and there. And honestly, the tang was far more massive than it needed to be, so I'm just reducing that. Remember a moment ago when I mentioned how the blade was moving, this way and that way as I was trying to grind it? Well, this is my solution. It's a jig, essentially. But what I've done is I have my table tilted at a particular angle towards my belt. I'm then using a piece of angle iron, and you can't see it, but I'm using a magnet to attach the blade to the steel, and it's actually working really well. I'm pretty happy with how this is going, and I'm probably going to use this technique in the future. That jig really did do the trick. Here is the knife fresh off the grinder. I love it. This is bronze. What was unknown to me is this particular type of bronze, oil-bearing bronze, is a powdered metal. You'll see why that is important. Well, right about now. Nice red heat. Should be flat. And it splits right in the middle. Unreal. So I figure I'm not going to waste this material. I've got this metal. I know how to smelt this down and cast this. Let's do that. So I've got a little bit of black pipe here that I've used previously as a crucible. Shake a little bit of water out of it. I don't know if water in there would cause any problems. Explosive steam kind of doesn't seem like a good idea when you're melting metal. Anyway, I managed to get all the pieces to a size that they will fit inside here. Yes, I know I need to buy a real crucible. And let's pour. Remember when I said this is a powdered metal? Well, apparently this is why that is a critical bit of information, because it doesn't work. So the spacer that was going to be made out of bronze is instead going to be made out of wrought iron, which is just like the little bolster, which is just fine. I mean, it's a historically accurate material. It's just I wanted a different material, but this is going to work good. I had a problem when I made my first handle. This is the second one that I've made. The first handle, unfortunately, ended up cockeyed, if that makes sense. It went in straight, and then it kind of turned and came out the bottom at a different point than it did the top. It means that the piece was crooked and I had to redo it. I've seen some really cool looking jigs for this, filing jigs, where you clamp on a piece of metal, high carbon steel, and you file down to it so that way you get perfectly aligned shoulders. I didn't make one and I didn't want to buy one. I figure a Sharpie and a square works well enough, and it definitely did. I'm happy with how it turned out. But maybe I might want to make one in the future. Who knows? This filing took me forever. I figured because this is wrought iron, it's going to be much more easy to file than it was. So wrought iron really isn't much easier to file than steel is. But me being as, well, let's call it determined. I can think of a few other words to call it, but determined is what we'll go with. Me being as determined as I was to do this the way that I had wanted to, I ended up filing for over 2 hours just on this one piece. I wisened up due to the advice of some very awesome people on some of the forums with the spacer that I use. But this took me absolutely forever. This file is starting to get a little bit worn down. I've used it quite a bit. It's the best of my needle files that works for this particular job, so I'm going to probably have to pick up some new needle files soon. But, man, this was painful. Anyway, I finally got it, and now we are hot fitting. So I've got the wrought iron up to a good heat, and how much easier was that? I wisened up for the next piece and drilled a hole and hammered it down through that. Man, what a pain this was, but lesson learned.
Ho ho! And I have hit the bottom.
Of all the different ways to make a handle that I have tried so far, I think that this is definitely my favorite. It's pretty simple. Drill a hole through the center and burn the tang through the wood. It makes a nice tight fit. There's a reason that they used to make them like this. It works really well. I really like it. The ability to slow time, in this case to 1/8 of its normal speed, allows for one to gain a different and interesting perspective and an opportunity to view rather mundane processes in a much more interesting way. Case in point, the metal shavings as they come off here, as you can see, are rather small. There are a couple larger ones, but most of them are just kind of chips out. You'll see once the drill gets a little bit further in and some lubrication is added, those chips turn into larger curls. See, there's one there, there's one there, there's another one there. This is a curious little occurrence. I don't know. I find it interesting. Maybe it's just me. Drilling and then punching down is definitely a superior technique to trying to file the damn metal out. Oh, that took me forever. This took me 10 minutes. It's clear which technique is superior. Definitely. Here is the summation of my work so far. The handle in its rough state being assembled for the very first time. It's a really neat point to be at. Though my knife is not yet complete, this video is. The next video will be the polishing of the blade, sharpening, hardening, tempering, and the final construction of the handle. The next video will be the finishing of this knife, and I'm very excited to get to there. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, comment, let me know if there's anything that I could have done better in the creation of my Seax. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and as always, may the Force serve you well.